Happiness is often misunderstood as a reward for achieving something, acquiring something, or fixing external circumstances. We tend to believe that once life improves, our brain will allow us to feel happy. But research in psychology and neuroscience reveals a different truth: the brain doesn't wait for external conditions. It runs on autopilot, processing thoughts, memories, and sensory input in patterns that often perpetuate stress, worry, or dissatisfaction. Happiness, therefore, is less about adding pleasure and more about interrupting these unconscious stress loops that the brain has been running for years. These stress loops are like mental grooves carved into the brain. When you encounter a familiar trigger, like a difficult conversation, a looming deadline, or even a memory from the past, your brain automatically runs the loop, releasing chemicals associated with tension and anxiety. Most people respond by trying to think their way out, forcing positivity, or avoiding the trigger entirely. Unfortunately, these strategies rarely work immediately because they bypass the brain's automatic wiring. To truly shift your emotional state in seconds, you need to disrupt the pattern itself. One of the simplest ways to do this is through conscious attention. The brain is constantly processing countless pieces of information, much of it beneath your awareness. By deliberately redirecting attention, even for a brief moment, you break the autopilot cycle. This could be noticing the sensation of your feet on the ground, focusing on a single object in the room, or listening closely to a specific sound. When you bring full awareness to the present moment, the brain receives new, novel signals, and the old stress loop is interrupted. Suddenly, the emotional charge tied to anxiety or negativity begins to fade, making space for calmness, clarity, and even happiness. Another method involves activating small rewards pathways that are disconnected from the problem at hand. For example, engaging in a tiny act of kindness, expressing gratitude silently, or recalling a positive memory can trigger dopamine and endorphin release. These chemical signals communicate to your brain that things are going well, counteracting the default stress signals. What's remarkable is that these interruptions don't require hours of practice or major life changes. They can occur in just 15 seconds because the brain is constantly evaluating and recalibrating based on immediate feedback. Understanding this principle changes the way you approach emotional health. Happiness is not a distant goal to chase, it is a state your brain can enter when stress loops are interrupted and new, positive signals are introduced. By learning to identify and disrupt these unconscious cycles, you gain direct access to emotional regulation, empowerment, and a kind of immediate uplift that most people assume is impossible. It's a subtle, profound skill. Changing your brain's internal conversation in mere seconds can make happiness feel instant and real. Happiness is not a distant prize reserved for those who achieve perfection, wealth, or recognition. It is a skill, an ability to communicate with your own brain, to send the signals it understands, and to interrupt the patterns that keep you trapped in stress or negativity. In just seconds, with simple shifts in breath, posture, attention, or small positive triggers, you can alter your emotional state and access a sense of joy that feels immediate and real. The power to feel better, to experience calm and contentment, has always been within you. It is not dependent on circumstances, other people, or the passage of time. The true lesson is this: happiness is not something you wait for, it is something you activate, consciously and deliberately, in every moment you choose to engage with your own mind. Take control of those seconds, and you take control of your life. Human behavior is deeply intertwined with emotions, perception, and the ways in which the mind can distort reality. Emotions are not just fleeting feelings, they are powerful forces that influence the way we think, act, and interpret the world around us. Every decision we make, every interaction we engage in, and every judgment we form is filtered through an emotional lens, often without our conscious awareness. The complex relationship between emotion and perception means that our understanding of reality is rarely objective. Instead, it is colored by the internal states we carry, the memories we recall, and the biases that subtly shape our cognition. Cognitive distortions are one of the clearest examples of how the mind can mislead itself. These are systematic patterns of thinking that skew reality, leading individuals to interpret situations in ways that are inaccurate, exaggerated, or self-serving. Common distortions include overgeneralization, where a single negative experience is taken as proof of a recurring pattern, catastrophizing, where the worst possible outcome is imagined regardless of probability, and personalization, where external events are interpreted as having direct significance to oneself, even when there is no evidence. These distortions often operate automatically, making individuals feel as though their perceptions are rational and accurate, when in reality they are shaped by internal biases and emotional states. Emotions themselves can significantly influence perception. For instance, fear and anxiety narrow focus, heightening attention to potential threats while ignoring neutral or positive cues. This can explain why people sometimes misread social interactions, perceive danger where none exists, or overestimate the likelihood of negative outcomes. Conversely, positive emotions such as happiness or excitement can lead to overconfidence, underestimation of risk, and a tendency to overlook potential problems. Emotional states act as internal filters, amplifying some aspects of experience while diminishing others, which means that what we see and remember is often a reflection of how we feel rather than objective reality. Memory and perception are particularly susceptible to these distortions. The human brain does not record events like a camera, it reconstructs experiences based on fragments of information, emotions felt at the time, and prior beliefs. As a result, memories are malleable, often reshaped to fit current emotions or expectations. This phenomenon explains why two people can experience the same event and remember it differently, and why traumatic experiences can become magnified in recollection. Emotions not only color memories but also affect how future events are anticipated and interpreted. A past negative experience, for example, can create a cognitive bias that distorts expectations and responses to similar situations. Social and environmental influences further complicate the relationship between emotions and perception. Humans are highly attuned to social cues, and the emotions of others can trigger automatic emotional responses in ourselves, a phenomenon known as emotional contagion. This means that group dynamics, social pressures, and interpersonal interactions can shape behavior in ways that are often unconscious. Fear, anger, joy, and empathy can spread through social networks, subtly influencing decisions, opinions, and actions without individuals fully realizing the source of their reactions. Understanding the interplay of emotions, perception, and cognitive distortions is crucial for interpreting human behavior. It reveals why people sometimes act irrationally, why disagreements escalate over seemingly minor issues, and why self-perception often conflicts with how others see us. Emotions are not weaknesses to be suppressed, they are essential signals that guide human behavior. But when unchecked or misinterpreted, they can distort reality and lead to patterns of thought and action that are counterproductive or even harmful. By recognizing these patterns, we gain insight into the hidden mechanisms driving human behavior, opening the door to greater self-awareness, more effective communication, and a deeper understanding of both ourselves and those around us. Human behavior is profoundly shaped by social influence and the intricate dynamics of interpersonal relationships. From the earliest stages of life, individuals are immersed in a web of social expectations, norms, and interactions that guide behavior often more than conscious reasoning does. Humans are inherently social creatures, our brains are wired to seek connection, approval, and belonging. This innate drive means that social forces, ranging from subtle cues to overt pressures, can powerfully shape thoughts, decisions, and actions, often in ways we fail to recognize or acknowledge. Understanding these forces is essential to comprehending why people act the way they do, particularly in group settings or interpersonal contexts. One of the most striking aspects of social influence is conformity. Individuals often adjust their beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors to align with those of a group, even when the group's perspective conflicts with objective reality. This phenomenon is rooted in both evolutionary and psychological mechanisms. Conforming to a group historically increased the likelihood of survival by fostering cooperation, reducing conflict, and signaling social competence. Today, conformity manifests in subtler forms. People adopt fashions, opinions, or habits to fit in, and sometimes even suppress personal convictions to avoid social disapproval. This desire to belong can be so powerful that it overrides individual judgment, demonstrating the invisible hand social influence exerts on behavior. Obedience is another crucial component of social influence. Individuals frequently comply with authority figures, even when instructed to perform actions that conflict with personal morals or ethical standards. Classic psychological research has shown that ordinary people can commit extraordinary acts under perceived authority, highlighting how hierarchical structures shape behavior. Obedience is not inherently negative, it enables the functioning of organized societies. Yet, it also explains why individuals sometimes engage in actions they would never consider in isolation, from following harmful social norms to participating in unethical practices. The subtle interplay between authority, social expectation, and personal conscience underscores the complexity of human behavior. Peer pressure extends beyond obvious coercion. Subtle cues, body language, and social comparisons can influence decisions without explicit instruction. Humans constantly monitor others to gauge approval, acceptance, or status, adjusting behavior to maintain social equilibrium. This need for validation is rooted in an evolutionary imperative. Social exclusion historically threatened survival. Consequently, behaviors ranging from minor gestures of politeness to major life choices can be dictated by the perceived expectations of others. Even highly self-assured individuals are not immune. The desire to fit in and be accepted can subtly influence decisions at every level of life. Interpersonal relationships are equally powerful in shaping human behavior. Emotional bonds, attachment styles, and social learning all contribute to the ways individuals act within personal networks. People mirror the behavior of those they admire or love, internalize social norms from close relationships, and are influenced by the approval or disapproval of significant others. This dynamic explains why habits, beliefs, and even emotional states can spread through social networks like contagion. Love, trust, envy, or rivalry can subtly alter decisions and priorities, often more than rational analysis or conscious choice. Social influence also operates in collective settings, where group dynamics can amplify both positive and negative behaviors. Phenomena such as groupthink, mob mentality, and polarization demonstrate how collective pressure can override individual judgment. Conversely, supportive social networks can encourage growth, resilience, and ethical action, showing the dual nature of interpersonal influence. Understanding these dynamics reveals why people sometimes act against self-interest or moral standards in groups and why others thrive in nurturing social environments. Ultimately, social influence and interpersonal psychology demonstrate that human behavior is rarely autonomous. Individuals navigate a complex landscape of expectations, pressures, and relational dynamics that shape choices at every level. Recognizing these forces provides a window into both personal and societal behavior, revealing how deeply interconnected humans are and how much of what we do is shaped by the social world around us. By studying these patterns, we gain the tools to foster healthier relationships, resist destructive pressures, and understand the subtle yet powerful currents guiding human behavior. The human brain is a marvel of evolution, a complex organ capable of extraordinary reasoning, creativity, and problem-solving, yet simultaneously prone to contradictions, errors, and inexplicable impulses. These contradictions are not flaws, they are deeply rooted in the brain's primary mission: survival. Over millions of years, the brain has evolved mechanisms that prioritize safety, reproduction, and resource acquisition, sometimes at the expense of logic, consistency, or long-term well-being. Understanding these survival mechanisms and inherent contradictions is essential to comprehending the seemingly irrational behaviors that define human life. One of the most striking contradictions of the human brain is its simultaneous capacity for rational thought and emotional impulsivity. While the prefrontal cortex allows for planning, critical thinking, and delayed gratification, other regions, particularly the amygdala and limbic system, drive immediate responses to perceived threats or rewards. This duality means that humans often act in ways that appear inconsistent with their stated intentions or long-term goals. For example, someone may intellectually understand the dangers of overeating or impulsive spending, yet succumb to momentary cravings or desires. These behaviors are not simply lapses in self-control, they are manifestations of deeply embedded survival mechanisms designed to prioritize immediate needs over abstract reasoning. Memory and attention illustrate another fascinating contradiction. The brain excels at recalling emotionally significant events, often exaggerating threats or opportunities to ensure survival. This bias toward emotionally charged memories explains why negative experiences tend to linger in consciousness longer than neutral or positive ones. Similarly, attention is finely tuned to detect danger and opportunity, meaning the brain can focus intensely on specific stimuli while ignoring vast amounts of surrounding information. While adaptive in ancestral environments, these traits can produce modern-day distortions, heightened anxiety, overestimation of risks, or misperceptions in social interactions. What the brain perceives as essential for survival may, in contemporary contexts, manifest as stress, fear, or irrationality. The brain's reward system further demonstrates the interplay between survival and contradiction. Dopamine pathways are designed to reinforce behaviors that historically increased chances of survival and reproduction, such as eating, social bonding, and seeking novelty. However, these same pathways can drive compulsive behaviors in environments abundant with artificial rewards, overeating highly processed foods, seeking endless digital stimulation, or pursuing status symbols. The very circuits that evolved to ensure survival can create patterns of behavior that undermine long-term health and well-being, illustrating the brain's paradoxical nature. Decision-making itself is often shaped by these survival-oriented mechanisms. Humans are prone to heuristics, mental shortcuts that reduce cognitive load and speed up judgments. While these shortcuts often lead to efficient decisions, they also produce predictable biases, errors, and irrational choices. For example, loss aversion, the tendency to prefer avoiding losses over acquiring equivalent gains, can dominate financial or social decisions, even when it is counterproductive. Similarly, the brain's tendency to favor familiar or immediate rewards over abstract or delayed benefits reflects an adaptive survival strategy that can conflict with modern societal demands. The brain's contradictions extend to social behavior as well. Humans are wired for cooperation, empathy, and altruism, yet also capable of aggression, competition, and manipulation. These dual tendencies are not random, they reflect evolutionary pressures that favored flexible social strategies. Cooperation ensured mutual survival, while competition and aggression secured resources and reproductive success. The coexistence of these tendencies can produce perplexing behaviors, acts of profound kindness alongside seemingly inexplicable cruelty or betrayal. In essence, the human brain is a master of survival, optimized to navigate environments of uncertainty, scarcity, and threat. Its contradictions, rational yet impulsive, empathetic yet aggressive, cautious yet reward-seeking, are the result of evolutionary trade-offs that prioritized survival over consistency. By understanding these mechanisms, we gain insight into the patterns of human behavior that often appear irrational or self-defeating. Recognizing the brain's paradoxical nature allows us to better navigate our own choices, anticipate the actions of others, and appreciate the delicate balance between instinct, reason, and emotion that defines what it means to be human. Human behavior is a labyrinth of hidden impulses, emotional currents, social pressures, and evolutionary mechanisms, each influencing our thoughts and actions in ways we often fail to recognize. From the unconscious drivers that subtly shape our choices, to the cognitive distortions that color our perception, to the powerful sway of social influence, and the paradoxical nature of the brain itself, every layer of our psychology tells a story of complexity and contradiction. Understanding these forces does more than satisfy curiosity, it provides a mirror into ourselves, revealing why we act, think, and feel as we do, often in ways that defy logic yet make sense within the framework of survival and adaptation. Awareness of these psychological truths is not merely academic, it is transformative. By recognizing the hidden patterns in our own behavior, we gain the ability to respond rather than react, to question rather than assume, and to navigate our relationships and decisions with clarity and intentionality. We begin to see that much of what we perceive as personal failure, conflict, or confusion is, in fact, a reflection of universal human tendencies, deeply rooted in the architecture of the mind. The human psyche is neither perfect nor entirely predictable, but it is endlessly fascinating and remarkably resilient. By embracing the knowledge of these psychological facts, we equip ourselves with the tools to understand others with empathy, to confront our own biases with honesty, and to shape our lives with greater awareness. The more we understand the hidden forces that govern behavior, the more empowered we become to master them rather than be controlled by them. In the end, the study of human psychology is a study of ourselves, a journey into the unseen currents that drive thought, action, and emotion. It reminds us that while our minds are intricate and sometimes contradictory, they are also capable of profound insight, growth, and transformation. To truly understand human behavior is to glimpse the delicate interplay of instinct, reason, emotion, and society, and in doing so, to gain a deeper understanding of what it means to be human.